Welcome to the Big Roofs Podcast, where we sit down with the most influential leaders in the roofing industry to talk about what it really takes to build a stronger, smarter, and more profitable contracting business. I'm John Delaurier, former roofing company owner and co-founder of ProLine CRM. Reggie Brock has been in the roofing space long enough to see the same problems play out over and over. Homeowners who treat contractors like they're replaceable employees who bail after a few months, and companies that just can't figure out why nobody sticks around. I've seen this over and over again as well. In our conversation, Reggie breaks down what actually is happening here. More importantly, what to do about it. We talk about building real relationships, not just the customer service kind, and creating a culture that makes people want to stay, and why trust matters more than most contractors actually realize. Let's get into it. Everybody, welcome to the Big Roofs Podcast. Today we have Reggie Brock. We've been chatting like we always do before we hit record and said a lot of things of a pretty intense value, actually. So I thought we'd just hit record and start chatting and hopefully get some real value from everyone listening and watching. It is a pleasure to meet you virtually, Reggie. I know I've heard about you a lot. We've met a couple times in real life. Thanks for coming on the show.
It's an honor. I've heard, I'm the same way. We know a lot of the same people, and I've heard your name a bunch, and I know we've met a couple times, but it's good to spend a little bit more time to get to know you today.
Absolutely. So talk about your background and then get to the 16 years in the biz. That'd be awesome.
Okay. So, one of the things when I talk about my past that can't be overlooked lightly is my relationship with my dad. My dad was a preacher. I was raised in a preacher's home, and people ask me why I have such interest in people and how they live and how they grow, helping them kind of advance with having, maybe dealing with some challenges that they're working with. And I come by it honestly. I was raised around a man who he really believed that if he helped other people as much as he can, he would never have a problem or need help himself. And that's the way it worked out. His ambition was not to build his brand, but to help others, live a life that they were actually wanting. And what he didn't realize back in those days is it was building a brand that would last with him forever. I watched that. I watched how he chose people over himself. And it's just as deep in me. And so, one of the things that's important to me is that people understand that they're not alone in life. And I think a lot of what we've done in roofing and in business in general is we've created this sense that safety lies in silos. You just can't trust people anymore. They're going to burn you. You're going to get, and we just believe that. Now it's also carried into the way we recruit. I'm going to tell you something. I don't think we have a recruiting problem. I think we have a retaining problem. And that's what we'll talk about a little bit later. But the way I've seen roofers and roofing companies generally respond is they feel like more people solves all their problems, and their problems have zero to do with just their people. Have little to do with their people. It has everything to do with the way they're built. And so one of the things that I've seen happen is I think guys are pretty comfortable building what I call Airbnb roofing companies, where it's very transactional. Come in for a short period of time, get out when the visit's over. I'm going to get as much out of you. You can get as much out of me as you want, but we're going to move on. And I say this respectfully, kind of, but I think the only people making money right now in roofing and recruiting are recruiters. Like everything else is just so hodgepodge. And the reason for it is we've not built anything, I don't think, John, that people want to stay with a long period of time. Yep. And so I think one of the things that has been heartbreak for me, for so many of my friends in this business, is they just have never been able to build anything they've always been able to build things that are attractive to people looking for work. They've just never built anything that once people get there and they look at the guts of the business, they want to stay. And I think that's all about culture and the build of the business.
Yeah, absolutely. It is. Ironically, I did an interview yesterday with a recruiter, and he has a massive value to what you're talking about. Is he's finding better people who want, and guess what? They want this culture. They want good culture. These are people that do not want to just be transactional like you're talking about with the Airbnb culture. They want long-term career advancement.
Yep.
And I thought it was a very interesting conversation. I I personally never needed a recruiter because I had a culture that people would just come to. But I knew that I wanted to build a strong brand that was respected, and I had crews, I had admin who wanted to work for me, I had sales reps, but it wasn't something that I was being very intentional about, other than just I wanted to do the right thing and create an environment that had helped people succeed. So, but a lot of people don't do that. I had a lot of success for almost a decade, and the reason I did was a big part of that. And I wasn't really thinking like, I got to create the best culture ever. I was just trying to do the right thing
Right.
by everyone on my team.
Yeah.
And so I love this. I love this though.
Yeah. And listen, I'm not knocking recruiters, but what I am saying is that more people does not fix the lack of performance and results that you're looking for that you've not attained yet. That's not the answer all the time.
Yep.
If you got a guy, and the other thing that I think we struggle with is thinking that speed and movement and quickness and that cadence of going faster changes things. And I've got a lot of dear friends who are in coaching and consulting, and they're activity hounds, dude. They know how to put people on the scent, and they can run hard, and but sometimes if you're not careful, you will inspire activity that actually causes more damage to the results than betters the results. And what I mean by that is, if you've got a guy that you said be successful, go knock 50 doors a day. I'm just using an example. And they go knock 50 doors a day, and they get no access to roof or property inspection. And you go then to them and go like, well, the problem is you need to be knocking 100 doors a day. No, that's really not the problem. If they're not getting on roofs for the 50 you ask for, why would you want them to go knock 50 more if what they're doing is not getting the results neither of you want? So activity and speed is not always the answer. I think that there are things that people need to understand, that need to feel to be successful. And I think that by and large, we as roofers have not really facilitated that need in people's lives. Go do it faster. It's not working, so you're not working hard enough. Listen, I'm a big proponent of hustling and grind, but at the end of the day, sometimes you need to slow down and understand why what you're doing is not working, so that ultimately you can have the success that this industry promises people every day. Slow down, refine, figure things out with people before you just put your foot on the accelerator.
It's so true. And I'm thankful there's a good shift from, I always talk about, and there's different theories on this, but you're in a business. You're not a sales organization. You're not a production organization. Yeah. And I talk about these 5 things a lot, and other people have as well, but like accounting, admin, marketing, sales, production. It's all 5 of those things. At least there's other things obviously on top of that, but it's usually in that order, and it's not the other way. It's not we build roofs well or we sell roofs well. You have to think about your business in the holistic approach, and culture is a big part of that. And if you communicate that and you have transparency as a leader, then everyone understands, hey, well, why do we have to charge this much? Why is our profit margin this much? Mm-hmm. Oh, why do you expect us to do this on the job site every single day? Why are we marketing this way and not this way? Like, if you communicate that, that's part of the culture that I tried to instill, and it created way less friction. Because there's no groaning and complaining. It was like, oh, I get why. We're at 40% profit margin because of these things.
Yep.
Oh, because we're at these, like, it's part of culture. And it takes a lot of like knowing yourself and knowing your strengths and weaknesses as a leader to be able to implement this culture within your organization.
I think that's so well said, because I think if people actually know and they're aligned in terms of not just a vision statement on a wall or a mission statement you share with them on onboarding, but they understand why you do what you do at every level, they're going to make a choice. And that's what I want. Compliance comes from choice, right? And so we can drive compliance down people's throat, but until they choose, there's not a transformation that happens from just renting to owning, so to speak, right? And so I think you doing what you just said, explains a lot of the success that you have, because if you get buy-in from people that understand not just tactically what we're doing, but it's really deep in them and it becomes a conviction, not just a compliance issue, it changed the dynamics of growth. Absolutely. So well done.
You want to have people who, no matter how small or big your team is, they want their teammates to win too. Like sales reps are notorious for wanting them. They're money driven or very success driven in general. Well, if you understand why the office ladies have to do this, or the production guys have to do this, and the reason they're doing it and the way they're doing it, then there's less like wonder and doubt in your head as you go through each day. You're understanding, okay, well, this is the reason why. And you're going to have more success because you're going to be able to overcome objections during the sales process. You're like, oh, why are you more expensive? Like all these reasons. Oh, totally get it. Because Keisha does this and Kathleen does this and Jose does this. And these are and how did you hear about us? Oh, because of this, this, and this. And so we invest in marketing, and there's all those things and the only way that the sales rep's going to know that is if you as a leader communicate, this is how this happens. These are all the things that happen to make this roof be built and sold and paid for.
That's so good. And I think what's interesting, and you said this, and I think this is a flaw in running a business. We guess too much. Like there's just too much guesswork. Sometimes we don't want people to really know how much money we're making as owners or whatever. I don't know what it is. And especially I see this when it comes to people and performance lags. As leaders, rather than identify what the actual problem is, we start guessing. And so by the time it shows up, the damage has been done. One of the things that I believe is how do we assess things early? Are there signals that maybe we're missing? Are there things that we've overlooked because we don't want to slow down, or we think, well, these people are not smart enough to really do this. And if you can take the guesswork out of the business and things become more predictable, they become more predictable. And if we can catch things earlier, we can secure ourselves probably of a place of less damaging occurring later. And so, and literally just sitting down like you talked about and walking through a job and everything that's gone to get that job, from marketing to back office to administration to production, and everybody sees the whole picture, then is when buy-in and alignment can be created. If you're just saying to somebody, go sell and like just do your thing, what happens, I think, is that number one, I have seen most times that jobs don't go smoothly at all. I mean, there's just, there's no cohesion in the job. There's no alignment in the job. Well, you can take 2 pictures when they're asking for 10. Just stuff like that. And so when people understand the totality of how the job comes together and we come to work and stay at work every day because of the way these conditions are laid out, you have a much higher level of surviving a team build as opposed to just talents coming and going. I think, again, it's well done.
I made so many mistakes. So a lot of the things, and I've stolen most of my wisdom from other people who are wiser, but I just know that whenever when I was the only sales rep and my subcontractors were frustrated with me, I wanted to figure out why they were and how to prevent that frustration from happening in the future. And you talk kind of like about the handoff. And I just filmed a bunch of content about the handoff. That's a classic frustration in business where sales and any business, sales and production are fighting each other. Why? Well, they're not mad at each other necessarily. It's just they're not taking care of each other in some form or fashion, because sales can take care of production and production can take care of sales by doing multiple things.
Yeah.
Like you said about the pictures. Yeah. Sales rep, whoever's inspecting the roof, don't take 2 pictures.
Right.
As a leader, set up, like, we got to take these pictures in these specific ways. And that way the production manager can know exactly what to do. And if there's any details, and then vice versa, when production's out there, this is all culture. When production's out there, they're like, don't waste the material so we hit our profit margins so our sales rep doesn't get hurt on their commission. Like, you're helping each other. The only way that happens is if you have good culture. Because otherwise, if there's 2 little islands, there's the sales island and the production island, and they're all in islands. Nobody cares. I don't care. I'll just get mad at you because you threw away all the material that didn't need to be thrown away. And I'll get mad at you because you didn't take enough pictures and I don't know that I'm supposed to do the cricket behind the chimney with copper flashing. Like there's a number of things that if you create the culture, way less friction, way less frustration.
Yeah. And you used a term earlier that I think best describes this, and that is either you're building a team or you're just building talent. And because you have talent does not mean you have teams.
Yeah.
And so what I reflect back on constantly is I played sports growing up my life, and I played college football at a small school in Missouri, and they had a 40-year reunion about 2 years ago. And when I walked in, John, it was weird because I hadn't seen most of these guys in 40 years. But instantly when I saw them, I remembered times where we had built a team together that time did not erase. And so when I played in any sport, I was focused on doing the best that I could, but I respected that for us to have success, the people around me had to do their job, and I needed to support that. We live in a day and age where this hero culture has overwhelmed us to where we think you got to find rock stars, Reggie. No, I don't believe that. I don't think everybody plays quarterback. I don't think that everybody can, everybody has a role and a responsibility, and good owners have the way of diagnosing that and putting people in the right spot. But what you can't do is what most people don't understand is how do you create what you're talking about is collaboration, and collaboration is built by chemistry, right? And chemistry comes by time spent. And even if we don't like each other, we start understanding each other. There's an opportunity that progress can happen collectively. We don't need help with individual success. Guys are wired to go out and do their thing, make their money. What we need is desperately are companies who build talent into teams. And it comes to collaboration. I'll give you one final example on this. My wife and I have been married 37 years. And, when we started dating, it got serious. We started asking the big questions, like, where are we going to live? Where are we going to go to church? How are we going to spend money? And the final big question was, are we going to have kids? And both of us wanted children. Now, we're blessed to have just one. He's 35 years old today and lives in Tampa, doing a great job, enjoying life. But here's what I say. My wife, very talented, smart. I got lucky. But here's the deal. I could have prayed, hoped, and wished for a child, but without her or someone like her, a child would not exist today. We had to collaborate at a very intimate and intense level and by doing that, it created something that neither of us could do by ourselves. She might have been is talented and gifted. I may have my abilities, but without each other, my son would not be here today. This is what we miss in roofing. We think we've got to have an either or. Listen, go chase your dreams. But if you are able to invest part of who you are into somebody else, you're going to be able to produce a result you could not get by yourself. And John, this is the big miss. The big miss is we think our great future lies in our greater push. Like, if I just work harder, I'm going to get more. And there's this a patch of acreage over there that's just ripe and ready and willing to be possessed, but it only comes from collaborators. And so until you can get as a team to pull your talent into a team and they start sharing with each other into each other's lives, you'll never be to produce anything past your own resource. And what I keep harping on to people is this: you're not giving anything up. You're giving to a cause that's going to produce something alone was impossible for you. That's collaboration, that's chemistry, and that's forward motion.
Yeah, 100%. And you're actually making me think. I love the analogy with you and your wife and your child, because I have kids too, and same thing. That wouldn't happen. But I see this is making me think about the general culture of blue collar workers. Relationships are hard. We can all they take work, and you have to collaborate. And a lot of that, I see a lot of like difficult, my best subcontractor, married for so long, has kids. He's doing he's super blessed.
Yep.
There's a reason why he knew how to collaborate with his wife and have kids and have this amazing life. And I worked with him for 10 years. And other subcontractors and other sales reps and other people who did not understand how to collaborate, they didn't have the same success.
Yeah.
And it's just I want to get into Propel, but like this is actually really making me think a lot, because I see as the industry changes, only the type of businesses that have this culture are going to actually survive, because there's going to be all the other ones and the old ways of doing things are just going to fall by the wayside. So let's talk about Propel. Let's talk about what you do. We've already touched on some of the pillars, but like, let's break it down. Let's get into it. And somebody watching, listening to this, what's the first step?
Yeah. So the goal for me is this. I want to help people build cultures that stand up under pressure, because we live in a highly pressurized world right now, personally and professionally. And what I see more than anything else is poor cultural builds collapse so easy and lives are ruined. And so a part of my ambition is, how do I help people build something that when the storms of life show up, they're not worried about the foundation being all that's left. They've got something built. And so, and I tell people this all the time. Let me tell you what I don't do. I don't design, I don't determine culture for people. And let me tell you why. I think culture's personal. I don't think that even coaches and consultants can come in and take one size fits all and it work. I think that's what we're seeing. We take these kind of one size fits all approaches and we go over here and it may work. And so we think it works here. It's going to work with everybody. And it's not the way it works. Culture is personal. I help reinforce the culture. I don't try to design it. And the second thing I don't do is I don't fix people. Like, that's what people think about me is, oh, Reggie's going to come on straight. No, people have to come to the end of themselves and want help before that ever is an availability or a possibility. Let me say that. So for me, that's it. How do we help people build cultures that power their companies, that stands up under pressure? And the other thing is, people think and look at culture as, kind of soft. Like, it's like, Reggie, that's just kind of emotions and feelings and blah. So here's what I'll tell you. Cultures are built with systems and process, and I understand that. But you know how they are developed and activated? By the way people feel every day they show up in it. And so what happens is, if you've built a company that people don't have a good feeling about, they're not staying. Well, I've had people say, Reggie, well, you can never satisfy everybody. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, you have got to build something that inspires not just everybody, but the right everybody's to be with you and to put their shoulder to the plow every day and go to work. And I think that I've figured out some things after 30 years in this business, or in business in general, that kind of help build that frame. I'm all about alignment. How do you align these 6 pillars that I talked to you about in just a second, that are going to stay in a line? And when they get out of alignment, what are the reactions? What are the requirements? What are the things that we need to do to line things back up? I don't know about you, but I know you're going through a problem with your leg and knee right now, and Godspeed with you. But I'm a golfer, and I have a friend of mine who flew when we were living in Colorado and wanted to golf for 3 days. We did. The 4th day, I couldn't get out of the bed and take him to the hospital. My back was out of order. So I go to the chiropractor, and for the next 3.5 months, I could not hardly move, because one vertebrae had been knocked out of alignment. And until they got that thing back in, it affected everything else I did. Everything. When there is lack of alignment, pain is seen in all parts of the body. It just is. And I think business is no different. If we don't have proper alignment, we're going to be in pain. And so I think some of the hurt and difficulties and challenges that businesses are facing today are just, they're out of alignment. I think the people are good. I think the people are talented, but we're not aligned. And until we find alignment, we'll never move forward collectively. So the 6 things that I think matter most in terms of pillars of building businesses that have this ability to withstand, they focus on 6 things. Number 1, clarity. Right now, I go into business, and the first thing I want to detect is how clear are people in their roles, their responsibilities, where we're headed together. And if clarity is missing, you immediately can notice the desperation in people, the agitation in people, the frustration in people. And Forbes magazine reiterated this in an article I read the other day that said this. Listen to this: 4 out of 5 people who are currently employed today will show up tomorrow and not know exactly what to do with their day. They'll guess their way through it. So if you don't have clarity in your business, any direction's okay. So one of the things that I think we have to do is, by gaining clarity, we have to sometimes eliminate some things and sometimes we delegate others. And so clarity, when pressure hits, is the guiding light. It's like that. When it comes, as long as we stay clear and to each other and to our purpose, we're still going to be able to push through when the pressure comes. The second thing that I think is important is communication. Dude, we over communicate from a frequency standpoint, but we are horrible with accuracy. And I go into companies and I see it all the time, John. They just don't know. They talk at each other, not to each other. And so we have lost this art form of being able to articulate clearly without all the emotions, a message that needs to be delivered. And so until we can learn, and that's what we do, we work with companies to how do we not create more communication, but clearer and more accurate, so that we're taking the guesswork out of messaging and, even how we deliver meetings. Like, how are we doing these things and how are we communicating effectively? If we are poor at communicating, we will never be able to build community. And that's what I'm after. And so the third thing is chemistry to me. That's like I talked about. And chemistry is not harmony. It's not like we got to get along. It's not that at all. It's where we decide our business, we're willing to contribute ourselves one to another for the cause of the business to move forward together collectively. Not me, but us. So we move a lot of me, which is needed to create a we, but we move a lot of focus more on what does the we look like inside the company. Fourth thing, I don't know what it was.
Fourth
is collaboration. Right. Collisions. It's collisions. So I'm a big believer that we need to run at each other to get better. I do. I think that we have avoided each other for the sake of maybe for whatever reason. Sometimes we avoid each other because people we've dealt with in the past have hurt us and we don't want to go through that again. I get it. All of us have those marks in our lives, but we are missing a great opportunity to collide. Because when collisions happen that are healthy and managed properly, it makes what we were different. We leave a collision different. And so if you have the right people in the room who are operating at a level of, hey, even though we have differences of opinions, our outcome and our goal is the same. How do we collide even in thought? And then how does it produce something fresh and new out of the collision? I think they're very important. We avoid them too long. And I just think that they're critically important to healthy relationships. Look, I don't want to have a knockdown drag out with my wife, but I don't want her to sit on differences of thoughts and opinions because she's afraid to hurt my feelings. It hurts the relationship. We got to talk through things respectfully. The fourth thing is collaboration. And collaboration in this world is about, and business in particular, is not really about, again, do we like each other, which helps, but we're looking at business goals and how do we attack them together to move the business forward. That's collaboration to me. And so sometimes we see pairings inside a business of the most odd pairings that you would ever see. But I've been able to show tools that kind of identify what specific motivations that people have, drivers that are inside of them, and how do you pair them together to create an outcome that's needed for the business. And then the final thing is contribution. Here's what I believe this is so important, John.
Here's how roofers make it home for dinner every single night without losing a single sale, even when they're one-man shows. Automate your communication with ProLine, the only communication-first CRM for roofers. Because when you fix your communication, you'll sell more jobs. Your weekends will smell more like sunscreen and backyard barbecues than that crappy gas station coffee. And all you got to do is ask these roofers.
Where we had about 200% growth, and I attribute that to incorporating ProLine.
But just with one automation, I was able to get 25 Google reviews.
It's been absolutely insane how quickly we were able to grow.
Now, ProLine's not going to win the beauty pageant, but it will save your Saturday. Now, back to the show.
I think that when people show up every day, they have to be noticed. I think they just have to be noticed. I've got an owner of mine right now that he's a hard coach, man. And I'm used to hard coaches. I grew up athletically, and my coaches, we didn't get participation jerseys, our trophies. We didn't get, just because we showed up and paid money, we didn't get, jerseys or starting and playing. That's not the way I was raised. He's kind of like that. Get up, go to work. I'm going to kick you in the fanny if you need to be fanny, because I want you to be successful. But his problem is the people that he's leading we've never been coached like that. And I said, so sometimes you got to get up, and though the kick in the fanny is important, you've got to validate and prove to people that even if they're progressing and not yet there, their contribution matters here. And I think that most people leave not because of pay and benefits, but because they're not recognized. And I'm not talking about, it's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about where there's meaningful gratitude and thankfulness shown for whatever the contribution is. You mentioned your office folks, and those people do gut-wrenching work to make sure that we don't fall off the map, so to speak, and yet so few of them feel acknowledged, especially by sales. Like they're there, they're paid by the hour, do your job and be quiet. Contribution recognized creates an organic growth inside of companies that even hard coaching can't. And so those are my 6 things. And those are the 6 things when I go into a business that I'm watching and we're monitoring. We develop those 6 things. And as a result, I think that we're seeing healthier companies be built, and whether they want to exit or endure, it's built right.
I love it. Those are amazing pillars for anyone to understand and to recognize that they are important for any business. And like we talked about before, if you're not building your business to sell, that's fine, but you need to build your business to be able to sell, because we're all going to exit one day.
Sure.
And part of the ability to build that kind of culture is, the priority of building the culture is how you're able to build that business. Just real quick, I have personal interactions with several individuals that were working for companies that were bought out by private equity.
Yeah.
And we can go all kinds of ways with that. There's good PE, there's bad PE, there's all kinds of things. I have great friends who have great private equity deals and the culture is super strong. But I also know a lot of people that left pretty quickly because another entity came in, changed the culture, changed expectations. They're not being recognized as a big part of it, acknowledged at all. Now they're just an entity, and that was a huge thing. These are high level sales reps, multi-million-dollar sales reps who had been with the company for years. This is several different examples of this, of individuals who I know in real life who left. And everything that you're saying is the exact reason in some form or fashion why they left. One of the 6 pillars, couple of the 6, that wasn't being recognized.
And John, these are smart guys. They got a lot of money and they're smart. And what they've missed is this. Here's what they can't buy. This is what I tell these PE guys all the time. You can't buy something you haven't earned. And what you haven't earned is the culture to follow you. And so that's
Yep.
what I tell folks all the time. This is an asset that is sellable. But I tell private equity, what you're doing is you're taking 4, 5, 6 businesses that have been successful in their own way, and you're just throwing them into a pot and just hoping for the best. That strategy does not work. And so I think one of the smartest things that private equity can do right now is understand how to look for and build out and resume what they bought in with the people that they brought into the business. Like, you can't kill the culture and expect because you just got this new way of doing things. You can do what you want to do. It's your money. But at the end of the day, don't be surprised and act naive to think that you can disrupt a culture by throwing it in, even though you've thrown money at it, and until you earn that culture back, buying it'll never work.
That's very true. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to throw names out, but well-known names in the industry, all over, been over, huge names that I have direct relationships with, done podcasts with, crazy good experiences and crazy bad experiences. And it's all the bad experiences always comes back to culture. It's the things that you kind of highlighted it for me. I kind of knew that was what it was, but like, as you're describing the 6 pillars, the result was one of those things or multiple of those things. That's why they left. And they were making good money. And they started their own business after making hundreds of thousands of dollars personally.
Yep.
They're like, screw this, we're leaving. And they go start their own thing. It's happening over and over again every month.
That's it.
It's just like, it's an insane thing.
I've talked to most of these guys, and they're at some level of conversation. Don't misinterpret me. I don't mean I've had great deep conversations with them. But one of them flat told me to my face, that's irrelevant to us. When we show up and we buy something, we expect people to comply and fall in line. Okay, great. Good luck. Like, good luck. If you're buying an asset, in my opinion, that you've not truly understood enough to keep the asset in place. You don't do anything that garners confidence and support other than, we've paid a bunch of money. You ain't got to worry about we're going to fall off we're not going to fall out of business tomorrow. But hear me, PE, if you're listening to this or watching this, you better pay attention to the culture, because you can't go in and throw money at a culture. You got to dadgum earn it. And these are the things that you've got to track, you've got to monitor. And if that's not what you're interested in, then you're going to continue not to pay second checks. You're going to continue not to have people who have been high producers stay with you. They ain't impressed with your dadgum money. What they're impressed with is, how are you going to grow this culture through this community called a business that continues to affect the communities that I'm in, and I need to feel like my contribution matters. And if you don't like that, I'll go somewhere else. Sorry, that fires me up.
I love it. No, it's great. So, the somewhat used phrase is like, it's not personal, it's business. Well, that's not true. It's all personal.
Yeah.
And we are in an industry that is home service. Both of those things are very personal. Your home is personal, your service is personal.
Yeah.
And it takes people that have a culture to be able to grow that home service business. And that's a lot of times the personality types that are in that investment banking world and the PE world.
Yeah.
That's not they don't understand the personality type of what it takes to run a very personal business, all the way down to Oscar was my longest term cleanup guy. The cleanup guy, the lowest guy on the totem pole, amazing. I treated him super well. There was a culture of a decade of relationship there. Yeah. PE's not going to make that guy's life better. Even with money. He doesn't care about that.
Good. See, that's the way I look at it. They're just missing an opportunity. Like, they're fighting this too hard. Like, they don't have to fight it that hard. You can wave your money all you want. And I'm proud for these guys to be able to sell and to, but what I'm worried about is not the transaction. I'm worried about the transition. So when PE comes in, what does it do to those who are left who haven't been paid? I mean, like, Because if I've got a big check and I go in, one of the things that I want to make for sure of is the assets that I'm purchasing know that I'm here and we cannot continue this without them. And so, you buy trucks and you buy machinery and you buy all this other, I get all that. But the greatest asset that they need to maintain the momentum that's been built enough for them to want to purchase it, they're just not looking at it carefully enough, in my opinion. Now, my opinion with 50 cents still ain't gonna buy coffee, and I get that. But at the end of the day, I know, Kim, I know what culture does and how it impacts people. One of the last guys that I was a part of when I say I was a part of it, I've been coaching and consulting them in culture for 14 months. They finally sold. And at the conclusion of the transaction, the guy cutting the check looked at the owner and said these words. He said, "How has this company valued culture equally with capital?" Now think about that. The culture was noticeable and it made a difference in the multiple.
That's amazing.
And what's amazing about it is it was intentional.
Yep.
And so if culture matters, it's going to have to be an intentional investment to people. But here's what I'm telling you. It'll get noticed. You know why some of these private equity guys don't care? Because they've never really noticed it before. And the reason they've not noticed it is most companies don't build it. So you come in and you're basing everything off of EBITDA and multiples. And there's nothing wrong with that. But the companies that are going to have the longevity of success, even when maybe the founder steps out, are those people who have built something that's not buyable. It's earned only. It's earned only. So I come in, and as a PE guy swinging a big check, I've got to realize that I have to earn. I can't pay for. I've got to earn the trust and the chemistry and all the things that have made this purchase possible. My God, I've got to turn my attention there first. If not, that money that I spent will burn in the wind. It just will. And so my hope is that people will, look, man, this is doing what I do with companies. It takes work. It takes effort. It takes investment. And you don't necessarily see it overnight. But when I tell people this all the time, you give me a year and I'll give you 10 back. Like this will be a work effort that pays off in such great measure, but you just got to make the commitment. And then whether you exit or you continue, it won't matter. You're building a business that has value to it beyond just what most people or the capital side of it. And, I could go on, and I don't want to bore you, but I just think that at the end of the day, there's such a great opportunity here for people why not think about building a business you don't want to sell? Like, How would you build that? Like but all the people are hearing is sell, 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 sell. It's just like this moment in time to where everybody's thinking, just build it to sell it. And there's nothing wrong with it. But what if you could build something that would be impossible for it to be bought because you just love it so much? And here's the problem, John, and I'll shut up after this.
I love it. No, I love this.
Those owners carry too much weight themselves. And so when they start looking at selling, it's a weight distribution for them. There's like, I'm getting rid of this. I'm getting rid of this. And that weight is so heavy. And most people that they brought in don't have to assume weight, maybe because the owner didn't want them to assume weight or they weren't capable of assuming weight. But that's a motivator for a lot of owners. It's just, dude, this thing is killing me. Like, it's beating me down. Now I tell them, how about this? Rather than trying to sell, how about we distribute the weight? If we distributed the weight through a cultural build where people aren't renters, they're owners, so to speak, where they're not coming here as a short stop in an Airbnb that you provided, but they want to be here. Their contribution matters. We can distribute weight equally. And if we remove that weight, would it change the way you think about your business? And every one of them have said, absolutely. And so that's a part of what
if you want to go to the office You want to go to the office and see the people that you want to work with.
That's right.
Again, you don't have to they don't have to be best friends,
No.
but if you know you're all on the same mission together, it changes it. It changes
100%.
it drastically. And I've been definitely guilty of that first impression of the example of like carrying too much weight. Did that for years and realized that I was going to die if I didn't start distributing the weight. Like you said, you got to do that.
If you'd be, I know you're honest, but if you would be honest to admit it, is affecting other areas of your life.
Oh, everything. Yeah, everything.
Because that's the way we're built, dude. We have this feeling that people can shut things off like a light switch. They can't do it. That's why I tell people all the time, when people come to work, one of the things that we've got to culturally become aware about is that they come with feelings and thoughts. Think about this. When I was growing up in business, the early part of my boss would say to me, I don't give a crap how you feel. I don't care how you think. Here's a task, go do it. That's not the generations we live in today. It's not.
No.
And so I've found out that if you give attention to the way people think and feel and acknowledge it and give them an outlet to express it, they're good. They're good. And so, I think that one of the things that I help people do very well is I have this tool I call the pulse check. And twice a month, everybody inside the company that I deal with gets a pulse check from me that says, hey, I want to check on these 4. It takes 2 minutes to fill this out. But are you kidding me at the insight that it provides me? And so we're big. People are just like goofy about KPIs and dashboards. I get it. But John, let me tell you something. They're reports of history. This is what's happened. That's what a KPI tells you. Now, we had expectations, Reggie. And a KPI goes like, well, this is how we ended up against the It's a report card of our past. And there's nothing wrong with that. Yep. But I want to help you have tools in your hands that you can see the signals that people are giving out before the damage that they produce shows up on a dashboard. We can do that. How do you do that? Well, I send a pulse check out and I promise you this, it's 100% accurate. When somebody identifies to me that there's a lull personally or there's some challenges that they're facing, I can go to the owner with his report. I can lay it on top of their KPI and dashboards, and it'll explain lag every single time. Because the way people think and feel show up in the way they work, John. And if we're naive enough to think, and there's great systems out there, I'm not going to call any names, that they track these KPIs and they put you in rooms and they want you to have rocks and they want you to have all the, and they show up once every 90 days and think that they can fix it. What happens if something happens on day 57 with somebody? By the time the review happens, the damage is done. So what I'm trying to do is help people catch things earlier. If I can catch it earlier, and here's the way I start. Hey man, you probably don't feel comfortable telling them, but tell me. And for some reason, people have a tendency to open up to me pretty quickly. And then they know I'm taking this data, shaping it into a report for the leader so that the leader understands now what's happening truly with performance. So you can look at KPIs and judge. I get it, dashboards and judge, but they're incomplete if you don't bring into account how people are thinking, how they're feeling, and how it affects their performance. Then as they start, I call it gym work. Like they come in and twice a month, I'm giving them a little bit of, hey, give me this. They start working that muscle that they've shut off. I fear more at what people are hiding than what they're willing to reveal. That concerns me more. They just hide these things and they fester and they grow. And then all of a sudden you see these explosions. You go like, where did that come from? It's been building. I want to take that building process of frustrations out quicker. And if I do that, I'm able to help them withstand less damage. So, and then now I do calls twice a month with companies and their teams. Not month 1, but usually month 2, month 3, conversations that we having together as teams sound different. People are opening up. And I think it's because they're practicing before they get to the group with the pulse checks to kind of have a little bit more vulnerability and confidence to talk. And once I get their head and their heart lined up and they're comfortable, contribution matters, you can't beat them away with a stick.
I love it. I love it. Think about this. I know you already know this, but we spend a lot of our life at work. And and not just our industry, but lots of industries just don't really care about culture. What you're doing, what you're providing is fascinating to me because, like you said, if you're not doing well at work, a lot of other things in your life get affected in a negative way. And this is amazing because if we can fix our work life, again, not best friends, but at least on the same page, moving to the same goal, you have purpose in your professional life. You have more purpose and you have more meaning for what you're doing professionally. All the other areas of your life can be better. And so I love this. I love this a lot. Like we try to practice a lot of things that you're talking about at ProLine. But I'm going to get our team to watch this podcast because I think that it's really helpful to make sure we're very intentional at ProLine to be intentional. We don't have pulse checks, but we have a lot of other things like that. But I think this is extremely valuable we just spend a large percentage of our life at work. Why not make it good?
So
why not make it, you be happy to part of your team?
So let me say one other thing to you. A lot of how, one of the things that I encourage people in is really a deeper level of understanding of the people that are involved in your life at every level, whether it's your family or work, it doesn't matter to me. And one of the things that I have found, and Chuck Tokey's a good friend of mine and really invested in what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. He introduced to me a guy named Gary Sanchez, and Gary owns an institute called the Why Institute, right? And so we usually work on what and how people do stuff. He starts with why. So my practice is built around why does John show up the way John shows up every day, right? And so if you understand wiring, because wiring produces the behavior, it produces our decision making, it produces everything. So if we just are going and trying to correct what they're doing and how they're doing it, we're missing the mark. Why not? So we start with why. Why do people do what they do? I have a little assessment that I use that has been 100% accurate with everybody that I've ever done this with. There are 9 traits. And then what we do is we take each, so this is not a personality test. This is a wiring issue. I'm not trying to figure out what role you best fit in. I'm trying to figure out your reason for showing up every day. And am I putting you in a place to be able to fulfill your reason? Because if your why is fulfilled, everything around you will just be better. Not just what you do, but what you collaborate with. So I'll start out with doing a why assessment with their team. It opens people's eyes up. John, I've been on calls with teams I've done this assessment with. I'll bring them all back together. We'll start looking at each other's why. And you'd be shocked at how it opens understanding to be able to go like, okay, he's not really a jerk. He just shows up like this is why I perceived him being a jerk. And the reality of it is he doesn't trust me, or he doesn't, whatever the situation is. And so when you understand why you show up every day the way you do, and then you pile you into a tribe and you start understanding why they do it, then your interaction becomes more effective. Your contribution matters more. And now collectively, we're having success. I think people have to start with why to be able to determine how do we start building what will last under pressure.
Reggie, I love it. I think that I could talk about this for another hour, but we're going to stop now, and we'll do this again because I want to continue this conversation. And before we go, I mean, let's end on something great, because I think we've talked about lots of amazing things that are truly impactful for lots of people. What do you want to end on today?
What I would end on is this. If you're an owner listening to this, I want you to start thinking about what can you build that people want to stay at? Like, what are the things that might be missing inside of your business? And I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing it for you. I mean, that business owner, to where they're going like, if you were to show up and you didn't own this place and you showed up tomorrow, would you stay and come back the next day? Like, how do we start looking at building these cultures that don't just attract people, but keep people? Because I think there's an opportunity to make roofing legendary. I do. but I think it's going to have to start with how we build the culture and what's important, how we gauge it, how we monitor it, how we adjust, how we pivot. And it's got to be very, very intentional. And as intentional as you are about your capital, if you'll get that intentional about your culture, you will get your future back in your own hand. And what I mean by that is whether you want to exit or you want to endure, it's back in your hands, in your plate, and you're the only one that can determine it.
I love it. Well, Reggie, thanks again for coming on today. I'm going to chat a lot more about this with the team, but I really appreciate the insight. I love what you're doing. The sign above your head is accurate so people can see culturaldisruptor.com. I love it.
Yeah.
And again, thanks, Reggie, for coming on the show today.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here, and I've looked forward to spending some time with you, and I look forward to some more time in the future, John.
Absolutely.